All right, I'll go ahead and call this work session to order. The topic will be on the sewer system, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Welcome to the third rendition of What the Heck Does Public Works Really Do? Tonight, we are going to talk about the sewer and sewer operations. We've gone through transportation and parks and water. With me tonight, we have, pardon me, right to my right, Nick Dosty. He's the city engineer as well as the deputy public works director. Next to him should be John Christensen, unless they change the name tags on me. John is responsible for the WRF and the water system. And Ty Brown, who is responsible for the sewer streets SIB. And then the one who brings us all together by she finds us the money, keeps the money flowing, Amy Doherty, Administrative Services. As you've seen before, we have the largest staff, largest operation budget, and we have the most amount of work that we're doing. And we have a lot of good qualified technical people doing that work, and we're going to be sharing more of that with you tonight on the sewer system. Just as a reminder, the work that we do is driven from the State Growth Management Act all the way through our own comp plan, which is being updated right now as we speak, through the required elements highlighted up here, which we are talking about utilities. We've talked about the other ones. We have our own system plans for these, and then we have our implementation, which comes before the City Council through the budget process, also through some of the zoning regulations. Pardon me. Tonight, we are going to give you an overview of our sewer system. We're going to tell you the fun stuff, which is by the numbers. We're going to tell you how we go about doing our conditional assessments. It's a little bit different than when we do water. As you imagine, they're both liquid, but they have different constituents and different functionalities. So we have to look at them a little bit differently. How we maintain our existing infrastructure, and there's a wide range of infrastructure, just like on the water side. We have a wide range of assets and infrastructure on the sewer side. We're going to give you some background information about our funding and funding sources, our capital improvement plan over the next few years, and then what we're doing as far as long-range planning that wraps all this up together. As I mentioned a moment ago, like water, sewer, it carries a liquid. So we have similar types of features. We have pipes. We have lift stations in this case, not a pressure zone, but a lift station to move the sewage to higher elevation so we can rely on gravity. We have a water reclamation facility where we treat it, very similar to other jurisdictions that have their own water utilities where they have to treat their water because there's too much sediment or the wrong minerals in it. We do that on the back end on the water reclamation facility. Both systems, water and sewer, have supervisory controls and data acquisition systems called SCADA. There are different points in their evolution. Some are a little bit looser. And then the other, water in particular, on the wastewater side, we have a more comprehensive SCADA system, though we're continually improving on it. At our water reclamation facility, this is totally different from the water side. We actually take the biosolids, which is a product of the treatment facility, and create a called a Class A EQ, exceptional quality biosolids, and a Class A reuse water. Those are highly regulated designations by the state of Washington. I won't get into those any further because I'll steal John's thunder if I do that. We also have a very unique feature in our community, a reuse water demonstration site. Most people like to think of it as Carrie Blake Park, but I keep reminding everybody that Carrie Blake Park stops at Bell Creek, and on the other side of that is the wastewater utilities water reclamation reuse demonstration site funded by the Department of Ecology for the purpose of helping people to get over the ew factor. We're talking about reclaimed water. I also like to remind everybody that reclaimed water is nothing new. The water you're drinking is reclaimed water. It's just gone through the biological natural processes. And in some cases, like down on the Mississippi River, I think you may have heard me mention this before, the drinking water that they pull out of the river has gone through 11 different wastewater treatment plants before it gets pulled out. So at least here, we have nice clean sources of groundwater, and in some jurisdictions, they use surface water, but we don't at this time. Similar to the water system side, we have state and national standards we have to adhere to. One difference is that on the wastewater side, our water reclamation facility has something called a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. This was covered under the Federal Clean Water Act. It is issued by the state of Washington under an agreement with the feds that the state of Washington Ecology in particular would administer this on behalf of the feds. This has very strict controls on what we're allowed to discharge and what we're allowed to do with our byproducts. There's also a further one that we have to comply with, which is the Puget Sound Nutrient General Permit. This one is not under the federal auspices, but the state auspices under RCW 9048, which is basically a Water Pollution Control Act for Washington State. So virtually everything that we do on the wastewater side is covered by, in one form or another, by state and federal regulations. This means our staff have to be highly trained, highly competent, and very reliable, and they have to know how to make things happen and do it the right way. With that, we're going to shift now.
What you see in front of you is our sewer map of our sewer system. This is included in our 2013-2014 general sewer plan. We are currently in the process of not only updating this map, but updating the general sewer plan as well. Some things I'd like to point out on this map. You can see the highlighted orange tract there. That's just for reference. That shows Highway 101. And then I'd also like to point out what isn't shown. We currently serve the casino down in Blinn, the state park, as well as Sequim Bay Lodge and Carlsberg, as far as outside of city limits. So the map itself, you see a red dashed line, that is the UGA boundary. And then you'll also see a black and blue dashed line. The black line, it dictates the city limits, and the blue line dictates the service area. Now, the reason there's two lines on there is we service what's known as the Bell Hill community, which is both outside the city limits and the UGA. So that's an additional, those are additional county residents that we serve. Also on this map, you'll see the WRF called out that John will touch on, and our 4 lift stations that John will touch on as well. Preceding me here. The takeaway from this map is the majority of the city is covered by sewer. You will notice some pock marks of blank area. So let's kind of walk through and paint through why that is, what that means, and how we get coverage. So the first thing I'd like to call out is the blue boxes, or the 2 different colored blue boxes. We have the reuse demonstration site Paul touched on. That's a little bit of an error there on my part because it includes Blake Sand and Gravel, so it's a little smaller. But in general, you can see it's centrally located, that reuse demonstration site in Cary Blake Park. The lighter blue area is the school campus. And so that is serviced by sewer, but it's just a larger acreage area that's covered compared to the residential neighborhoods you see. Second, I'd like to point out these green areas. So the green area that's rather large on the eastern portion of the city limits and UGA is the proposed service area for our West Sequim Bay Forest Road lift station. You can see that there are some existing services in there, but a lot of that property is either undeveloped or underdeveloped and on septic. So that would open up that portion of city for city sewer. You'll also see a small little green box in the middle, just to the southwest of the blue box that's labeled reuse demonstration site. That is the community of Flores Acres that we are currently assisting in connecting them to city sewer. Paul will touch on that later in our presentation. Third, I would like to point out these areas designated in red. These are rather large blank areas that do not show sewer service within them, but they are currently developments that are either complete, like Lavender Meadows, hence updating the map. They're in process of construction, like Rolling Hills. They're on 7th and McCurdy, or they're in the process of review, much like Bell Creek and Legacy Ridge. And last, I'd like to point out these purple areas. These purple areas are currently undeveloped or underdeveloped areas in the city. that are ripe for development should the circumstances arise and then the economy prove that it's beneficial. The takeaway with all these different colors is that sewer service is either adjacent or running through these identified properties, which allows the city to take advantage of growth when or should it occur. And when expansions do happen, typically they are within the bounds of the development, and an applicant doesn't need to come in and pull in sewer from 2,000, 3,000 a mile away to service what they are trying to develop. They strictly develop inside their own community and turn it over to the city.
So before I dive into the by the numbers portion of this, I want to talk about the photo on the top right. Excuse me. As most of you know, that was the presentation of the 5th consecutive year Outstanding Performance Award for the WRF. This is a huge source of pride for Public Works and the operators at the plant. We're one of very few facilities that earn this award every year, especially with the 5th consecutive year. So the gentleman in the teal shirt, that's Dinas Kleinsbergs. He's our actual permit engineer, and he's the guy that writes our permits. He's presenting the award to Timmy Wright, who's the chief operator of the WRF. Standing around them, Alicia Davia, she's a grade 4 operator and our lab analyst, and Josh Reese behind Timmy, he's a WRF operator. And those, the rest of those good-looking gentlemen in the background. But I just want to recognize the skill and hard work that it takes for these guys to operate this facility at the level of performance they do 24/7, 365 without a complaint. And I also want to call out too, as most of you council members know, we couldn't do it without your help and your backing. I've said this before, Rachel knows I've said this. You guys are kind of the group that makes it happen for us and makes it happen at the level it does. So I really appreciate that. I know Public Works does too. So diving into by the numbers, the treatment plant processed 284.7 million gallons in calendar year 2024. The average daily flow was 780,000 gallons. Flows do change from season to season. So in the wintertime, you'll see high flows with storm events coming in off the coast. In the summertime, as we enter drought season, they do dive off, but that is a very accurate representation of our daily flows. We handled 22.4% growth in population from 2012 to 2024. That's huge. Sewer also handled that without a hitch. Our Class A EQ biosolids production, we produced 417.4 dry tons in 2024. The Class A EQ biosolids were pretty exceptional in the regard that we're one of very few facilities that produce this level of biosolids, especially for our size. We also produce 100% Class A reuse water. Every drop of water that goes through the plant is Class A reuse. Most facilities only produce a portion of their flows annually based on demand or need at the time. So we're one of 2 facilities in the state that produce water of this quality. We can supplement endangered salmon stream flows with our water. The other plant being one of Lott's facilities in Olympia. So on average, our annual use uptown was 100 million gallons in 2024. We use this reuse water for irrigation, right-of-way irrigation, hanging baskets, dust control. Contractors use it on site. We also supplement the flow for Bell Creek, the Friendship Pond down there at the plant, and the fish pond that you see the kids out fishing in. In the summertime, we use almost 100% of that water at that site. So as far as the reuse demonstration site goes, as Paul said, it was funded by a grant from Department of Ecology in the 1990s to show the benefits of reuse water to the communities. And like Paul said, it kind of gets rid of that ick factor. There's a stigma attached to that. We want to try and fix that and kind of educate the citizens on how this is a usable commodity and how it can benefit the city. We are always on the hunt for new sources of wholesale reuse water to sell this as a commodity to customers to generate revenue and to get the benefit out of that reuse water. We're also searching for new and creative ways to use the reuse technology as these technologies advance, becomes more reliable, more accepted. We're always on the hunt because we do discharge a lot of our water to the straits that can be used uptown. If I could draw your attention to the purple hydrant down there in the bottom, anytime you see purple piping across town, that denotes reuse water. That particular hydrant there, that's currently in use at the reuse demo site. Fire Department 3 uses that for training events. They use it in case of emergency for live burns to fill tankers. That way they don't have to use precious potable water for those uses.
Perfect. Well, thank you, John. Let's see. So for sewer collections, we have over 75 miles of sewer lines ranging from 6-inch to 18-inch in diameter. They are composed of either PVC, concrete, or asbestos concrete. We call them AC lines. We have 1,577 sewer manholes. And we have 4 sewer lift stations, 3 of which were deeded over by developers. Currently, all the lift stations operate with 2 pumps. The second pump is designed to operate in case the other pump fails. All 4 of our lift stations have different styles of pumps, and our intention is to standardize this going forward so we can, swap parts and use them other places. Customer notifications. Let's see. Our customers have been great about letting us know about sewer backups in homes and businesses. Let's see. They also let us know about odors coming from catch basins or manholes, slow drains or gurgling toilets or overflowing manholes. They tell us about all those, so it's great to have this customer notification. Crew observations. This refers to on-the-ground findings and notes made by crew members during inspections, maintenance, and repair activities in the sewer collection system. These observations are vital for documenting the real-time conditions, performance, and issues within the system. They often include structural issues like cracks, fractures, joint offsets, and collapsed pipes. They also include blockages of debris from grease buildups, roots, rags, sediment, or other materials, odors, unusual flows that indicate broken pipes, illicit connections, or cross connections, inflow and infiltration, or signs of groundwater that entering the storm sewer system. Crews also inspect manhole conditions, covers, ladder corrosion, signs of surcharge or H2S gases. Basically, customer notifications and crew observations are our 2 biggest tools we have out there. So, just so you know. So camera and inspections and ratings. Our sewer crew is NASCO certified. This means that they have been trained and certified to inspect, maintain, and assess sewer collection systems according to a nationalized recognized standard. This ensures standards, data collections, and reporting across agencies and contractors, helps with regulatory compliance, asset management, and capital planning. This improves safety, efficiency, and accuracy in maintaining the sewer infrastructure. Sewer crews regularly TV our sewer mains to make sure that they are clean and clear of obstructions and to note any premature signs of failure. sewer line cleaning, sewer crews. Sorry, sewer line cleaning. Sewer crews maintain its sewer collection system through routine operations and maintenance activities, while specific cleaning frequencies depend on operational checks and inspections. When scheduled, the crews perform routine jetting to eliminate grease, roots, and backups, and to ensure the line is clean and suitable for TV inspections. In 2026, we will be reevaluating our sewer line cleaning and TVing procedures to make sure we are not over cameraing or jetting our system, just to make sure we're doing things properly.
So another important aspect of conditional assessments, excuse me, is our daily lab testing of WRF and the various reuse site. So we use the results of our water quality testing to monitor all the parameters at the facility and at the sites, the receiving waters. So when we see our numbers go askew, it can be an early indicator of process failure, equipment failure, infrastructure failures on the sewer system or at the WRF. So we're not only monitoring for our permit compliance, but we're always trying to stay ahead of any potential risk or failures and minimize risk. And Paul kind of put it in perspective. This may help you kind of understand it in a different way. We're kind of using these as the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, to find these issues. A good example of this is our reuse filters at the WRF. We noticed a pretty hard spike in turbidity, which is the amount of solids in the water. And we investigated that. We investigated those numbers and found that one of our filter cells was failing, which led us to find out that another filter cell was failing. And we also were able to plan the repair of that filter cell. We also found out via that testing that our O&M procedures were incorrect. We were not using that filter in the proper way with the proper amount of media. So we changed our O&M procedures. And after doing that, we have a much better quality of reuse water leaving the facility. And another important point is we use these testing results to get more process longevity, equipment longevity, a higher level of performance out of these systems at the plant. So O&M is a very, very important part of what we do on a daily basis with sewer and WRF. We have 5 wastewater treatment plant operators, 1 maintenance worker at the plant. I am one of those 5 operators. I still maintain my license to help the team on a daily basis or in times of emergency. The operators are trained rigorously to the highest level of state and national standards. We really encourage that. We've seen a good return on investment with encouraging the operators to attain the highest level they can. Given the technical nature of the facility and the stringent regulatory requirements, we just see it as total benefit all the way across. And this approach directly influences the performance and the reliability of the WRF, which is a very complex machine. And it's one of the things that helps us win state and national awards. So it's very impressive. Moving into SCADA, as Paul touched on, the largest SCADA in the city is at the WRF. It's most complex. As you'll see in 2 of the pictures there on the top right and bottom right, SCADA allows the operators to talk to these machines. If you look back past the operators, you'll see a bunch of knobs and switches and controls. Those are the controls for the actual machines that do the work at the plant. And it allows those operators to look at those in real time, collect any data that may be coming off of those, and take that data to make more informed decisions or possibly foresee any operational issues that they may be having or try and prevent, a problem before it even becomes one. Back to our MPDES and biosolids permits, Paul touched on those. Those are crucial to what we do. They're kind of our guiding force in all the decisions we make at the plant. And it really dictates how we operate the facilities and create these commodities like reuse water and biosolids. If these permits aren't followed, we're in big trouble. You know, if we allow a situation to occur where we go outside the limits of our permit, we can be fined heavily. We can, you know, operators even go to prison for this stuff if it goes that far. So it's very important to follow these and know we have the backing from Public Works and Council to follow these permits.
Nice. Well, we have 4 sewer crew members that maintain the sewer lift stations, excuse me, including the Carlsberg Sewer Lift Station. Crews provide services such as routine operational checks of lift stations. They check and clean bar screens and vac wet wells. They grease pumps and take amp readings to make sure the impellers and shafts are spinning freely and not ragging up and slowing down, causing the amps to spike and alarms to go off. Ragging up is just basically when a shaft gets a bunch of debris around it and everything that a 3-year-old kid or a little kid would flush down the toilet. That's what we find in these pumps, from socks to rope to anything. And it chokes down these shafts and it makes our amps spike, causing things to alarm. Not a good time, but I'll tell you what, it's impressive what we find. So, let's see, ongoing programs, 3 important programs that that we do here in the city. One of them is FOG. It stands for fats, oils, and grease. The FOG program is designed to prevent grease from entering the sewer system, causing blockages, backups, and sanitary overflows. This inspection process that excuse me, the process checks that restaurants are managing their FOG properly and maintaining their grease interceptors. Another one we're doing is industrial pretreatment. This one, it's an industrial user survey. This goes out with your building permits and other things. This basically lets us know what that client is going to be flushing down the system that could basically cause harm to the treatment plant or the sewer collections or the people themselves that are working in the system, right? So that's a pretty important one that we're on top of. And then the next one would be our INI. This is influent infiltration. This is basically all the groundwater and stormwater that could be entering the sewer system through cracked pipes, broken pipes, things like that. This this basically is very important because it keeps us from having to treat water that doesn't need to be in the system, right? So it makes for capacity for the treatment plant down where John's at, right? So he's not just treating 1 million gallons in an evening when it's raining out. So anyways,
So if I may, I actually overlooked one bullet on the WRF. That's probably one of the most important bullets on there. It's the Washington State Accredited Laboratory. That is a very crucial part of the WRF and sewer ops. We are the first accredited wastewater laboratory in the state of Washington. So that's something we're very proud of. We were accredited before Seattle and Tacoma and all the big boys. We do perform most analyses in-house. We do work with several contract labs for things that we aren't accredited for. That accreditation is very important for us to keep. We are always looking to expand accreditation. For any parameters we don't currently have that we sub out, we're looking at that for cost savings, reliability, faster turnaround time, and just overall self-reliance.
So funding, our sewer funding looks a lot like water funding. We have utility rates, general facility charges, GFCs, loans and grants, although loans and grants are more readily available on the sewer side than they are on the water side. We also have developer contributions, and sewer has partnership agreements. So this is a little bit different than water. We have an agreement with Clallam County to provide services to the Carlsberg area, and with Jamestown.
Excuse me. Pardon me. Is that
Better?
microphone on?
Yeah. I flipped it on.
maybe use, I think you'll have to use ties.
All right, we're on to partnership agreements.
Thank you.
So we have an agreement with the tribe to provide services for what's coming up from the casino, and we process all of that at the WRF. So for operations, we have approximately a $5.5 million operating budget. 99% of the funding for that comes from our utility rates. A little bit, 45,000, 1% is miscellaneous revenues. So that's things like interest, payment for services, like if we do maintenance down at Carlsberg, we get paid, reimbursed for those costs. Our project funding, we have a big old loan and grant section for 2025. This is our West Sequim Bay project that we're working on. We are in the design phase, moving toward construction soon. We do have about a 21%, so almost $1 million coming from our partnership agreements this year. That would be the Washington Harbor Loop project, which is a project benefiting the tribe. And then the second one is the Johnson Creek force main crossing. So this is the replacement of the sewer pipe that is moved because of the culvert on Johnson Creek. So that'd be White Feather Way. The rest of the funding pretty much comes from GFCs, with a little bit coming from utility rates, but mostly GFCs. So sewer projects for 2025 is approximately $4.4 million. I&I reduction, there's 7 projects total. So I've already talked a little bit about West Sequim Bay. That's the design phase moving into construction. The Doe Run lift station, which will be a replacement of that lift station. Mechanical parts, that's a 2-year project. We do have an aerobic digester capacity study going on, which will lead into design and then eventual construction, but design will follow in 26. We have the general sewer plan going on, and we have the Washington Harbor Loop manholes. Again, that's a partnership project. For 26, it's a big year, 7.2 million. So the biggest portion of that is the West Sequim Bay sewer project. So we will be in construction at that point. Doe Run will finish up that year. We'll start the actual design of the aerobic digester capacity project and finish up the sewer plan. Moving into 27, 6.6, another really heavy year. Again, that West Sequim Bay that West Sequim Bay project, that's the whole corridor project, almost $6 million again in 27. East Fur Street rehab, that will be a start of design on that project. We'll finish up the capacity, aerobic digester capacity design project, and then start the Reservoir Road sewer main and man lift project. On the out years, so 28, 29, and 30, we have projects identified, but funding is going to be a discussion. And so we'll talk about those at our June meeting.
So for capital planning, Amy briefly touched on the cost and how it's funded. I'd like to dive into these listed projects here a little bit more to give a little bit more context. Doe Run Lift Station is significant, and it's not really a 26, 27 project, or shouldn't have been. You can see the note showed 2024 execution on that contract. One of the challenges we face, and especially for sewer projects, is or are procurement delays for materials. Doe Run Lift Station runs on 2 vacuum pumps, and lead time for those pumps at the time of contract was 16 months. So we anticipate to start that project in October of this year, and it should carry over into 26, and that is a $1.2 million project. So when we're talking about planning, this procurement and acquisition is a major part and something we've worked into our schedule for the West Sequim Bay lift station as well. The aerobic digester study and design is underway right now, and the reason I wanted to note this project was because we are currently under budget in our design for West Sequim Bay, and we'll be utilizing the additional funds to kick off the design for that project in the next year and in 2026. We're very excited we have this opportunity to be able to kick off earlier than we originally planned on doing, and this makes the transition from design to construction a lot easier, both for project planning and for financial planning. So a lot of thanks to Department of Ecology for their communication and the opportunity to take advantage of the extra funds that are available. Then we have the marquee project there, the West Sequim Bay Forest Road Lift Station. You could call this the schedule driver. $12 million project, $16 million planning. You guys are very familiar with this project, and we've worked very hard on the financial planning, coordination with stakeholders and the public, and we are looking forward to closing out the design and permitting and getting that out to add in 26-27. Further into 26-27 projects, we have an I&I study, infiltration and inflow. Ty briefly touched on that, but what that is infiltration of groundwater into our sewer system during the wintertime that then inundates our WRF, and also inflow. It was very common in the past to connect surface infrastructure and home downspouts to the sewer system, and Ty and his crew have systematically worked through our sewer system to expose those inflows, and now we're on the infiltration portion of that. So these kind of studies, when we're dealing with groundwater, take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to monitor the system, both at the end of the line, which is the WRF, and in the actual conveyance system. So we'll be working with a consultant on that, on the best way to collect that data and monitor. East First Street, the sewer aspect is going to be tacked on with our RAISE grant. So the design for the sewer will be city funded, but the rest of the project will be funded through the RAISE grant. That's a 27 project, and we're excited to get that underway to improve that neighborhood and be more in line with our West First Street improvements with both street and utilities. And at the bottom of the list, paying homage to Ty and his crew on crew observations. We've noticed some continued issues up on Reservoir Road in that neighborhood, Reservoir, Norman, Eunice. So we will be looking into replacement of those pipes and manholes, and trying to optimize and be cost efficient on what we need to replace, when, and make sure that we can get our sewer guys away from these returning issues by updating and making more modern our older portions of town, like up on the hill there. So as I mentioned, we're currently updating the city's general sewer plan, and part of that is updating our collection system model. Something new we're going to add that we're excited about is actually modeling our WRF system, our WRF plant. That is part of the aerobic digester portion, because that is an inline but separate system for the WRF. So with those two models together, plus our collection system model, we can get a very accurate and up-to-date model of flows going into the system and flows going out of the system, and more importantly, being able to project those over time.
So similar to you heard us speak to on the water side, asset management on the sewer side means we need to know what we have, where it is, what condition it's in. It needs to go into our cartograph system. Then we can start predicting and projecting out our future needs for when pipes need to be replaced, when pump stations need to be replaced. Ultimately, the goal would be to get to the system so that we know the major components of all of our lift stations and our system, so that if we know that those two pumps were put in 25 years ago, And it's probably likely that it's time to either completely overhaul them, or replace them. The asset management program will be telling us that. It also helps us a significant amount when we're looking at our future expenditures on our rates. So we are able to program our rates such a way that we're accumulating the funds necessary to cover those big outlays in the future without having to go either seeking other people's money, which is kind of hard sometimes to find for routine maintenance or replacement activities. The I&I study update, the last one I understand was done in 2012. It's a little different this time because, and I haven't seen that, but we're looking into that. I&I by itself is not a bad thing. It's the quantity of I&I that's a bad thing. So as Nick and Taya both mentioned, when we get too much of that coming in, it can overwhelm the WRF, it can overwhelm our lift stations. Typically, it's been my experience and others in the Puget Sound region that happens when you have a couple things happen. A really big storm and your sewer manholes get overwhelmed with water in the intersections, and they have these really neat little devices on top to help drain it. They're called holes, pick holes. Unfortunately, that dumps a bunch of water down to your wastewater treatment plant. So there's techniques. The city's already been doing some of these. We're going to be looking for more. But we're also wanting to know is, rather than just go fix and put a finger in every little hole that comes up that we identify, what are the areas we need to focus on? Most jurisdictions, when they have done an I&I study, they've determined that it's cheaper to treat the water than it is to go and repair the holes. Okay, so if you have a neighborhood that has a high groundwater table and you know that's where most of your I&I is coming from, focus on that. Go out there and figure out what you need to fix out there to reduce the I&I to an acceptable level. If you have a neighborhood that one street has got some I&I coming into it, but it's a really low amount, leave it alone. It's not worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to take to go out there and fix that. Let the water flow down the treatment plant. When it eventually gets to the point where it's a real problem, you would take care of that as a part of your asset management recommendations for replacing the pipe and the manholes when it's time. So it sounds counterintuitive. When I first started looking into this years ago, I said, no, you got to get rid of I&I. It's a bad thing. And then I realized some I&I is normal, and it's actually not a bad thing. And you have some neighborhoods where you have not a lot of homes, and you have pretty flat slopes. You kind of need that extra water to help move things along, if you know what I mean, so it keeps your pipes clean for you. So it's not always a bad thing. On the conditional assessment, similar to the water side, this is actually easier on the sewer side. As Ty was talking earlier, we got this really fancy new van, and crews all trained in national standards. So they're going through and they're doing the video inspection and they're marking every defect as they go through that. That all gets loaded up into our cartograph system. Using that, we can now do a conditional assessment citywide to determine where we need to start focusing our efforts on. So this neighborhood over here is really old. They've got a whole bunch of conditional issues, right? So then we start focusing our capital on that area over there because we know that it's going to fail sooner than others. We're also looking at the conditional assessment as a means of determining how often do we need to send the camera crew out. If you got a brand new pipe and it's made out of PVC and they got good connections and it's all been inspected and TV'd at the time of construction, we can anticipate that we do not need to send a camera crew out there for 20 years. Seriously. Until someone identifies there's a problem, we should not need to go out there. When we have a system that using the NASCO ratings of 1 through 5, 5 means you're an imminent failure or it has failed, you need to go address it now, and 1 being this is like brand new, don't touch it. There are standards for saying, well, you identify those which are in the 2s and 3s, maybe the 4s, and you say 2s and 3s, we're going to go out every 10 years. We're going to just double check. Now it's got some cracking. That's okay because the pipe integrity is still good. And based on the video, we know we can wait a while. But then you've got the 4s that make me really nervous because the cracking and the spalling is a little bit worse, but it's not quite to the level it needs to be repaired right now. So you would schedule that one for every 3 to 5 years. And then based on what you see, then you decide when's the appropriate time to replace it. The reason for doing this is because it allows us to make sure that we're replacing the asset at the right time. If we have paid for a pipe that's supposed to last 80 years and we replace it at 50 years just because we feel like it needs to be replaced, but it's not based on condition, we're throwing away 30 years of financial life that we invested into that asset. So similar to on the sewer side, it's on the water side. This is all part of the conditional assessment we're doing, and it all wraps up into the big thing. And then the last thing I'll just mention is you've heard about the next few years on the capital, on the CIP. So we spend an awful lot of time looking through for the next 20, 25 years at all of our projects, identifying which are projects that's a good idea, but we don't know enough about it right now to say how much is going to be funded or when it's going to happen. We move those to the side. But we do this what if scenario looking for quite a few years out to make sure that when we're anticipating needing to do this work, that we can say with a straight face that yes, it needs to be done and we need these funds in order to do it. And there's different ways of doing that. And we'll get into that at the next meeting, actually. So wrapping this up, I want to remind you that I said that we were going to do an overview of the sewer. We've done that. Tell you about all the great numbers we have, how we do our conditional assessments, a little bit different from water, how we maintain our existing infrastructure, what our sources of funding are, our current capital improvement plan. And you saw that it stopped after 3 years until we do the funding discussion, and then the long-range planning. So this is what we said we're going to talk about. This is what we talked about. And now we're going to open ourselves up to questions from you. But before you ask a question, I just want to say a couple of different things here that I was jotting down as we were going. The NPDES permit, you'll be happy to know that actually the person who signs the form is the one who will likely be sent to jail for willful violation of it. And I believe that at this time, it's no council member. I believe it's the city manager, so you're all safe. I also want to mention that it is up to a $50,000 per day violation fee. If it's willful, if you intentionally know and you violate your NPDES permit, it goes up to $500,000 a day. So number one, we like Matt and we don't want to see him in jail. Number two, we don't have money to pay fines and we don't want to do that because we want to serve the community the right way. The other thing Ty was mentioning about was what we see in the sewer, and I kind of coined the phrase here a little bit. If it can be flushed, we've seen it. Okay. So one final note is those disposable wipes. Please tell all your friends they're not disposable. Don't put them in the sewer system. Don't put them in our sewer system. Don't put them in your septic system. Yes, they will flush. No, they will not go away. Yes, they cause clogging. When they clog up our impellers on our pumps, we have to shift to the other bay, the other pump, and we spend a day out there, crew, pulling the pumps, pulling the impellers and cleaning everything up, and it's expensive. And we would just soon not have to do that if at all possible. The other thing on the INI, just briefly, is our NPDES permit at the wastewater treatment plant actually requires us to identify sources of stormwater and to eliminate them. So we have a smoking and a dye testing where recently is a week or two ago, Ty, that we had the crew out there and we put notices to all the neighbors there and say, hey, don't be worried if you see smoke coming out of your downspout or out of the catch basin in your back behind your business. We are smoking to find out illicit connections that need to be taken out of the sewer system. So they're not allowed to be in there. And when we become aware of them, we are obligated to notify the residents and or the business owners that it needs to be disconnected. Now, we try to be lenient because I know sometimes it's a little bit of an expense, but in most cases, it's a pretty simple disconnection and we can make it work for them. The last thing Nick mentioned, he was talking about the unincorporated areas and the UGA areas and how they don't have service from us yet. I think the city manager may have sent out, and I hope I don't jump the gun. I thought you sent this out, but we were notified this morning of a $3.7 million grant coming to the city to completely redo the water system on Flores Acres. Also to build curb gutter sidewalk on one side on the inner loop. So we'll be moving forward talking to the county. We already have been for quite a bit on an interlocal agreement that allows us to take over the loan that they got from the Department of Ecology. And we'll be providing the design, construction inspection services while they're working towards doing their petition to the council for annexation. So there's an awful lot going on and it's all really good positive news. I just wanted to share that with you if you hadn't heard yet. And apologize to the city manager if I stole his thunder, but this is pretty exciting because this has got Department of Ecology, Department of Health, Department of Commerce, Clallam County, and the city and the homeowners association, everybody actually working very well together to pull this whole package together. It's pretty amazing. It's one of the most amazing of collaborations I have seen. He's pointing at you, Matt.
Forgive me. I saw you reaching for the microphone, so I thought you wanted to say something.
Well, I think your questions, and I know we're out of time. I had an amazing ride along with the sewer team this week, and I could add some non-subject matter expertise to the conversation. I think I saw Rachel after I got back, and I was like on cloud nine, how sophisticated this division really is. In fact, they have technology that nobody in the state or nation even has. The software vendor has been working with our sewer lead and crew to develop, and it's taken 2 years to get to. We've been using it all along, and now it's to a final product that the vendor can commercialize it. But it's an amazing thing. I guess additionally, because you all have been so supportive of the technology that we've been trying to advance the city into, the sewer truck or the sewer van is one of those. I was made aware that they used to have a trailer. Do you remember they used to have a trailer that they would cart around, and they couldn't get to, my last ride along a couple of years ago, they couldn't get to a lot of the higher level pipes on the south side. And now with this van and being able to send this robot down and the high definition, I mean, it's just amazing. So lastly, I'm just trying to brag about you guys. It's really stunning. Now with all the coordination that Paul and John and I guess Nick just talked about, they're capturing high definition video in between each segment of manhole that gets uploaded into the GIS. And so anybody in the city can now click on any part of the city sewer system and run down and replay that video and look at the inside of all of our pipes. And so what I heard was what they used to not be able to have that kind of clarity, or they couldn't get to all the pipes, and so they would flush things automatically. And now that they can see they don't need to flush, they're extending the life, as you heard, based on these conditional assessments. So just amazing things all around. So I just wanted to shout out to Public Works and to the commitment that you all have made to help support this, our advancements. So thank you.
I know we're past our time, and I appreciate your attention and willingness to let us talk to you about the great work that we think we do for the community. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to entertain them, or if you're ready to take a break, we'll get out of your hair.
What's an aerobic digester?
John.
In short, it's one of two forms of solids digestion at a wastewater treatment plant. You can either digest aerobically by aerating the solids, or you can digest anaerobically in a sealed vessel where you have different types, thermophilic, mesophilic, different temperature ranges where the bacteria actually breaks down the solids in that vessel. So it's more, typically you see anaerobic digestion a lot at bigger facilities. They do have a lot of off-gassing. They're very sensitive to temperature changes. So plants our size, you typically see aerobic, where you're just pumping air into it.
And that's the key. With air, without air, different types of bugs perform in different circumstances. So.
Since we're talking about it, do you have to add anything to the process, or you're just aerating the wastewater as it's in the digester, and the microbes that are already there just do it faster, or do you have to seed it with anything?
John.
So in a digester, we pull a certain amount of material out of the main waste stream, out of the aeration basin, to maintain a balance of population in the organisms. So the stuff that we pull out, it's overall dead or dying organisms. So we all we have to do, we don't have to seed it. We don't have to do anything. We just aerate those solids and it breaks it down.
And brings up a really good point for people to understand the biosolids. That's not fecal matter. That's the dead bacteria, the organisms that are using that as a life source. And so when it all comes out, it's very little to none as far as any fecal matter goes. In fact, it has to be cleaned out.
And John, how many of those do we have? We have 4 of those? Or 2?
Currently, yeah, we have 4 100,000 gallon vessels.
And I think you'll be hearing next week, and those that have taken the tour, we're looking at, is that going to be the capacity we need, or do we need 2 more in our planning? And that's why we are moving some of those monies over to do the assessment and the evaluation of that, because we think we'll need a couple more.
I have one more question. When was the last time that a conditional assessment was completed? Is it an ongoing, just
day.
you're constantly doing it?
Conditional assessment is an ongoing thing. By the time we get the whole system TV'd and inspected, we will start over on those areas that need to have a more frequent conditional assessment done. The challenge is that no one can sit here and tell you, well, in 5 years, we're going to be all done with the conditional assessment. Well, in 5 years, we're going to be done evaluating this round. And then from that, it will tell us whether we need to do certain stretches of our system every 3 to 5 years or every 10 years. The end goal here, though, is to have a complete understanding of the condition of our system and establish what is the right frequency for the different components of the system. So that instead of sending out the camera crew and the flushing crew, just say, well, we're going to do this half the city this year and this half the next year. That takes a lot of time and effort, and it's expensive. Rather to say, well, in our system, we need this area, this neighborhood, and this neighborhood flushed every week. Hopefully not, but if that's the case, then it has to go to engineering to find out an engineering solution to that problem. But it helps us to now program our time, our effort, and our money where it needs to be. So rather than doing something over and over and over again that we really don't need to do often, let's spend that resource, which is time and money, doing something else that is betterment for the system.
So Harmony, it's a great question. In my, non-sophisticated way, after they send the camera down, the high definition camera between manholes, it grades that run, right? And gives it a grade. And so I said, so show me a fair or poor run. And he could pull that up, and then I said, well, take me down that pipe. And I went down, I said, why is it fair? It looks beautiful. And he says, see this little depression. So it was a rock pushing down on the PVC pipe, whatever. So he walked me through that. And I said, so if we know exactly where the problem is, we could exactly fix it, and then it would be an excellent or whatever. So it's just to have that kind of data and that kind of visuals. It's just an amazing thing. So that's kind of a daily assessment. Every time they run the camera, it's getting graded excellent to poor. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And just to be clear, just because we see a pipe push or a rock pushing on top of the pipe doesn't mean it needs fixed.
Right.
It just means we know there's a pipe pushing on it. As long as it's not causing a capacity problem or causing the pipe to fracture, we're going to leave it alone. That means we'll probably go back and want to TV inspect that every 3 to 5 years instead of every 10 to 20 years, because we know that there's something that could cause a problem. Otherwise, in other cases, if the rock's pushing through the top of the pipe, that's a different situation. Might still not touch it. Might still wait 3 to 5 years, see if it gets any worse. So there's a lot of expertise that goes into the conditional assessments and determining when to do something for it. I think we better stop because you got 60 seconds for the council meeting to start. Thank you again for your time tonight.
Does everybody need a quick break? Okay, take a quick break for 5 minutes, then we'll get our regular session started. All right, go ahead and call this meeting of the Sequim City Council to order. If everybody will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And justice for all.
And the city clerk will please take roll call.
Counselor Kelly Berger.
Here.
Counselor Dan Butler is excused for tonight's meeting. Counselor Vicky Lowe.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson.
Present.
Mayor Brandon Janice. Counselor Harmony Rudder.
Here.
Counselor Nicole Hartman.
Here.
And actually, if I could have a motion to have Counselor Butler excused.
I move to excuse Dan Butler's attendance at tonight's city council meeting.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Council.
Any changes to the final agenda? All right, seeing none, that agenda is approved. No ceremonial tonight, so I'll go ahead and move straight into public comment. And is there anybody signed up online?
No one has signed up online or in person.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move. Will you go ahead and read the consent agenda?
Tonight's consent agenda is claim vouchers totaling $1,259,738.70. City Council meeting minutes for May 12th, 2025. 2025 curb ramp replacement project, a recommendation to award contract. The West Sequim Bay Road pavement repair project, a recommendation to award contract. SMC 3.52 combined utility billings, complete chapter replacement, an ordinance, and a used equipment purchase, a resolution.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Anything further? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion will pass. All right, Christina's in the spotlight tonight. 9A, Sequim draft comprehensive plan schedule and update.
So I am not one to feel the need to be in the spotlight all night. So I would like to turn it over to Carla Boughton of Cross Sound Consulting, who you may remember, who facilitated the council's retreat. So Carla, please take it away.
Good evening, City Council and Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to be before you tonight to give you an update on the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update and some of the status since I was before you in the retreat in February, I think it was February, and giving you the work plan that we have established. So in your packet, you'll have a status memo that we prepared that walks you through, again, what the work's been done. And we do plan to provide these status updates throughout the next couple of months, throughout the whole comprehensive plan process, until, as well as involving the council at the appropriate sections, which we'll talk about here in the schedule. So I just want to highlight a few things on the status memo. One thing that I will talk about on the schedule, but it is spoken about here in the memo, is that an additional 6 months has been identified as necessary in order to accomplish a comprehensive plan that's thorough, that is done, that is SQUIM specific, and that it engages the public and our boards and commissions, as well as yourself, and to do it right, to do the full, to take this as an opportunity to do a full update for the comprehensive plan. The city manager communicated that to you in an email about a month ago. And so the schedule that, again, we'll talk about here in a minute, reflects that. It is even with the additional months, it's still an ambitious schedule. However, we do believe it's very achievable. And so with that, I just want to highlight a few things. The comprehensive plan itself, the chapters, which the comprehensive plan, if you might remember from the retreat, a comprehensive plan is made up of 3 components. It's made up of a policy document, which when I talk about chapters, that's where the policies live. Those are the goals and policies. It's made up of a future land use map, which takes the city into its land use designations that you will further see refined in the zoning ordinance. But the future land use map is the second component of it. And then the third component of it is the capital facilities plan. And the capital facilities plan takes all the work that Paul and his team spoke to you about tonight for sewer, but for all of your utilities, stormwater, parks, as well as some other capital facilities aren't necessarily under the city's control, like fire, public, and schools. And it summarizes all of that into a 20-year list of projects that is necessary to support the allocated growth to the city. So the comprehensive plan is policy document, the map, and the capital facility plan. So the policy document is underway. It is in very, very draft form, internal draft form, about 90% done. So we are very close. The memo here gives you a status of each of the chapters and where we are with that. We have completed a couple of chapters and we're already bringing them forward to the Planning Commission. At our last Planning Commission meeting last week, they reviewed the introduction chapter, and next week they'll be reviewing community character. Natural environment is underway, so you'll see will be next step. So you see that schedule there in the memo. After natural or parks and open space, we'll be going to Planning Commission of hopefully the July 1st meeting, but it's already gone before the Parks and Arts, wait, hold on, I got it. Parks, Arbor, Recreation Board, the PARB board last week as well. And we'll be going back to PARB, or I'll be going back to PARB in at their next meeting to really dive deep into the Parks chapter. So the transportation chapter draft is actually done, and it's over being reviewed by Nick and his team. And the economic development chapter is nearly done, and then we'll vet that too with our community stakeholders. So chapter work is actually feeling really good. We're in a good place with that. In addition to that, in addition to the comprehensive plan, you may recall that development regulations also needs to be a component of our periodic update. And so we're underway in internal drafting as that as well. Christina and the staff and I determined that the 2 chapters that we should look at first are Title 17, which is land subdivision, and then Chapter 20.01, which is your permit procedures ordinance. And those 2 can be they're very standalone as far as like, you don't need the comprehensive plan to be complete before you can work on those. And so primarily because both those are informed by state statute. So we're moving ahead with that, and we actually have a draft Title 17 that Travis emailed us on Friday. So we're beginning our internal review of that, and Chapter 21 is not far behind. So again, really good news on that. Now, again, that we still have a lot of work to go, but the good news is that it's underway and things are getting done. So I really am excited to be able to share that with the council. And then the last part of the memo talks about a few other things that have occurred regarding the department or departmental activities. One of the things that we're most excited about is that we were able to bring on an intern to the DCED department, and he's a recent graduate of Western Washington University. He's a local Sequim from a family. And so he's been actually doing great, working on the comprehensive plan maps that we need to be part, not just the future land use map, but there will be other maps in the comprehensive plan, as well as bringing his some of his policy writing that he learned through his degree. Our grants are completely on track to finish turning in the deliverables and getting all of the full funding of the grants. And so that has been a priority of mine personally that I've been working towards, and happy to report that we'll be getting full funding on all of the grants that we had gotten commitments for. I was able to attend the Clallam County Housing Summit, which I know a number of you were at. And so that was a fun experience to hear what's happening in the region. And the last piece I'll say, I'll just highlight here is, as far as other activities, is we are going to be bringing forward comprehensive plan map, or the future land use map amendment requests made by private property owners. And some of you might recall that this is actually an annual activity that the city does, but for the last few years, it's been put on hold to wait for the comprehensive plan amendment or the comprehensive plan update. And so the time is now. So we actually just released, we're live now on our website for the applications. We had an ad in the paper announcing it. We'll also be in the newsletter as well. So we're trying to get the word out and we're also reaching out to staffers, to property owners who have expressed interest over the past few years with the department about being like, hey, I really not sure I want to be this land use designation, to see if they want to entertain that. If they're still interested and if they want to apply as part of this process. So that just went underway on Friday. We're going to leave it open for a month, and then we will see. Those of you who are familiar with the annual amendment process, we will still follow the process of setting the docket. So once we get the applications, we still will come to council and ask you to establish the docket that is established by state law. So we'll do that. And then once that docket is established, we'll fold that into the comprehensive plan process. And then the final bit in the memo that I want to update you with is that we are going to bring on a specialty consultant to help with some of the technical parts of the comprehensive plan. So Leland Consulting, who was a sub to SCJ, so they are familiar with Sequim and did some of the technical work already, and they did an excellent job with that. We're excited to be contracting with them, or moving towards a contract with them to complete the land capacity analysis work, the housing needs assessment work, which includes the housing units by income band that we talked about at the retreat. And then we've also asked them to scope 2 additional items that we're interested in learning more about, and that's a housing and economic market analysis. And that's to learn more about the residential market analysis for Sequim, as well as our employment, retail, and economic development market for Sequim. And it is going to be Sequim specific, although obviously we're going to, be informed by regional Clallam County and Olympic Peninsula. But I think that we all agree that it was time to learn a little bit more specific information and data that can inform the comprehensive plan. There is some of this is going to be very data driven, and it's going to address some narratives that are out in the community about whether Sequim is prepared or not for the growth that is being allocated to the city. And so remember that the Growth Management Act in the city, we don't create the growth, but we must be prepared and plan for the growth. And so this will be a study that will again help us prepare for that, and it will be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. So with that, I'll take a breath and see if you have any questions about any of the activities that we're working on before I go over at a high level the schedule.
Any questions?
Okay, fantastic. So the schedule is also in your packet, is the second piece of it. And so it's broken up into a couple of, month segments. So right now, of course, we're at the beginning. We're then April through July, and this is an in-house organization, meaning we're organizing ourselves, although we're really close to being there, organizing the departmental staff as well as myself to do the comprehensive plan in-house, and then identifying the technical work that remains to be done. So you'll see that section, between April, May, and then June and July. And again, we've engaged the Planning Commission already, working on the chapter review as we're getting them done. We're finalizing them internally, and we're immediately bringing them to the Planning Commission. So there is a good response and rhythm for that. August through December, we'll be continuing reviewing the chapters and technical work. At this point, we'll also be starting to coordinate more as needed and as appropriate with Paul and his team on the utility plans to start drafting the capital facility plan, so that third leg of the three-legged stool of a comprehensive plan. We'll also be meeting I'm proposing a joint planning commission and city council meeting to discuss the draft future land use map and the site-specific land use designations to really go over what we want the land use map to look like, and to consider the land use designations as they currently are, and if there's any changes. We started that exercise already with the Planning Commission about 3 weeks ago, or maybe it was 4 weeks ago. It was a great meeting where we literally walked through every single land use designation and talked to them about it and looked at the map and determined, okay, does this still make sense? We'll have more work to do with the Planning Commission on the map, and then when they've kind of got a good place of it, we'll do the joint session with you all, and everyone will talk about the map. So that will be coming up later this year. And then we will be finishing up the comprehensive plan by the end of the year, and you'll see then on the second page of the schedule that again, under the ambitious but doable schedule or achievable schedule, we're shooting for the February 20th public release of the comprehensive plan. So when I say public release, it's not meaning that all the chapters that we're working on aren't public, because obviously they are, but it's going to take the work that the Planning Commission is doing, and they're doing the heavy lift, for the comprehensive plan. They're really they're very excited about it. And so we'll pull all of that work together that the Planning Commission's done, the work that we've done, that when we bring the pieces to the City Council, and we'll pull it all together into a complete document and release that from February 20th. And that will have the map, development at least the first bucket of draft development regulations, and then SEPA documents. We'll have a joint Planning Commission City Council session to go over all of the things, and then we'll do some public engagement there where we'll have an open house that the Planning Commission will host. We'll have an online open house on the website, and then we'll have an all-day Saturday workshop with the Planning Commission, and then they will conclude their review and culminate in a public hearing, which then they will make a recommended document and send it your way. And then you will start in May to June your review of the draft comprehensive plan through study sessions, and then you will also culminate in a public hearing. So a lot of work between now and then, but excited to do it, and I would be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Okay, well, this will be the first of many times I'll be in front of you, so thank you very much, and we look forward to working on the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
And Council, if I may, I just want to publicly acknowledge all of the work that Carla and the team have put in to make this, as Carla mentioned, a difficult but feasible timeline. There is a tremendous amount of work to do, but we're all committed to doing it, not only doing it right, but in the time in which we've indicated. And so thank you again for all of your support in the various decisions that we've made getting us to this point, and that we will continue to do so moving forward. So with that, I don't think there's anything else to add, but thank you.
All right. May have passed the buck on the last one, but we're going right back to you. Sequim Municipal Code 2.36 Planning Commission Code Update.
Well, that's fine if you pass it over to me now. That's what I was going to say is enjoy these short meetings now, because as you've heard, you're not going to have them this fall and in the winter. So, okay, turning to 2.36. This is before you because As the cover sheet mentioned, in 2023, the Planning Commission voted to remove or to repeal their rules of procedure to make it more in line with what it was that they were actually doing in the processes in which they wanted to see moving forward. While they were working on those rules of procedure, as council may recall, Heather came before you and asked council to adopt the advisory bodies, boards, and commissions chapter to try to standardize and fill in some gaps so all of our boards and commissions were acting in a fairly uniform manner. And so we needed to take this section 2.36 back to the Planning Commission after we reviewed this against the previously adopted boards and advisory commission chapter. And this is before you tonight. The Planning Commission asks that the council consider this code amendment and recommends its adoption because not only will it allow them to modernize and implement the practices that they're already doing, but it will also allow them to adopt their rules of procedure, which they cannot adopt until this code chapter is amended. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Seeing none, I believe that there is
You might have one. I'm just trying to go over 2.36 one more time here real quick. I just want to make sure that it allows them to work on projects that are not specifically designated to them by this council or staff. 'Cause I think we've made it clear that they can if they so choose to.
So I would need to look at that a little bit more thoroughly, but I guess what I would say to that is that I would encourage council to exercise a little bit of caution about giving boards and commissions such free rein, because what can happen from the staff perspective is that we have staff mandates coming from council, we have mandates coming from state legislative change, from internal needs and practices. And so then if we go in and we have boards and commissions wanting to operate on their own purview as well, that can stretch staff really thin. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, but I will say that during my time here, I have seen boards and commissions get very engaged, and it can cause a burden for staff. So if I'm happy to add language to make that clear, but I would encourage council to consider some type of guardrail language on that as well, so staff aren't serving to, trying to please two masters, so to speak.
I'll get with you because I think I'll send you what I have because we've already done something.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when we were working on the Arts Commission rules too, there was a concern that they're an advisory to the city council, but everything went through staff. And that I think more what you had said before is we're interested in them being able to bring up issues without them being assigned to them. So if they see, because they're also our eyes in the community. So if they see something that they feel needs to be addressed, that they should feel free to bring it up and not wait for somebody else to notice it and make it something to work on. Does that make better sense?
It does, and it's actually helpful. And I think, Brandon and I can talk about that offline. So what I'm hearing from council is that the bringing up the concerns or the ideas is not the issue, right? From a staff perspective, it's the expectation that staff are supposed to be working on those in addition to all of these various things. So
I think it's making sure that they understand that they're not Yeah, limited to what is placed on the agenda. That if, say, for example, Planning Commission wants to work on a certain housing issue, that they should be able to at least entertain that idea and go through the proper motions and stuff.
And
See that they're not subject to whatever gets placed on the agenda by staff or by council.
And I would just ask again, for the reasons already stated, right, that there be a mutual agreement that with staff, for example, to work on that, because otherwise we're trying to please two masters. And frankly, there may not be capacity to do all of those things.
And I think, again, going back to the Arts Commission, that the idea was that the ideas could come from the Arts Commission, but they'd still have to, because they're advisory to us, so they'd still have to flow to council. And then we can say, yes, we see.
And I have zero objection to that process from a staff perspective.
And I'll just add to Vicky's comments, it's not just staff's time and limited capacity, but a lot of that fell back to Vicky and several other council members, and Kathy and maybe even Rachel helped kind of pull us out of that spiral of where we needed more guidelines and more structure to that commission. And so it can get burdensome if it doesn't have some structure, and to you all too. So I really do appreciate it. I think you guys really helped salvage a lot of the effort, and it's functioning high now and very functional. Yeah.
Good, but we want to make sure that we're not asking people to serve on these boards and commissions to be advisory to us, to not be able to give us the advice that we're asking for. I think,
I think too, what happens like right now, the comp plan is a huge project. And so planning commissioners feel like a valued and meaningful member of the team, right? But there were so many meetings where the planning commissions would get canceled because there was just nothing on the agenda. And so I think if I was a planning commissioner and there was consistently like meetings being canceled because there's nothing on the docket, I would not feel inclined to stay on planning commission. And so I think if commissioners can bring up something to put on the docket to at least discuss, if they see an issue that they want to bring up, I wouldn't mind doing that, having them be able to do that. But I do also see the capacity of staff issue, and where can there be a way to meet in the middle without overburdening staff?
And I guess what I would say is that at least in my mind, there's nothing wrong with having the conversation about these ideas being brought up from any board or commission to the staff liaison, right? And in an ideal world, that conversation about capacity, about the effect that it would have on staff's other priorities, ideally that would be resolved at that meeting, right? And it could be either in a parking lot, or when they're developing a work plan going forward or something like that, they could find a way to cue it in. So then it's not technically a board or commission idea. It is staff is technically bringing it, but it's in partnership with the board or commission. So I think in that scenario, I think that makes sense. And then, like the Arts Commission, if there was conflict between that, it's like, okay, well, we're going to bring it to the city council, and the city council can hear staff's position. City council can hear the board or the commission's position and go from there. But having the conversation is not the issue, but we've had some, as I said, some very engaged boards and commissions, and I would be concerned about that from staff. So that's the only caveat I have. Yeah, Harmony.
Well, so in the way I see it, right now I'm serving as liaison to one board and one commission. And aren't all of our boards and commissions, isn't someone the planning commission liaison? That's what I was going to say. And so then naturally, I mean, yes, we definitely want things there to be a two-way flow of conversation, but I think that's a key point of us having a council liaison, and a very, very key function of our council liaison report time during our meetings is to keep that conversation fresh and keep the ideas flowing forward in real time, as it were, rather than waiting for something to go through all the processes and then the staff liaison to come and present at council. And so just to keep it more in, like I said, real time, informal is in a certain way, but just to keep everyone informed. So
I would absolutely agree with that concept, right? But we've also had varying degrees of engagement from council liaisons, which I think, I'm going to look to Vicky to this, may have been part of the reason why the Arts Commission had the issues that it had. So, when we've got, like anything else, when we've got an engaged and energetic group of people who want to do amazing, wonderful things, but you've got disengagement, whether it be, through staff or through a staff or through the council liaison or whatever that is, that's what creates that. So, so point well taken, right? And on the various council liaisons to those boards, because you're right. I mean, from my personal perspective, that is the importance of those roles. And so it's good from the planning commission perspective to see, Councilor Hartman taking her role seriously and being engaged with the planning commission and having those conversations.
Vicky, was I understanding that you were also bringing up that you want the commissions and the boards to be able to take feedback the other direction too, like they're out in the community, they hear something in the public and feed it back in, but not necessarily to, have the commission then run with it. But because I'm noticing that the language just says review recommendations relating to Sequim's comprehensive plan, including subdocuments thereof, such as zoning code amendments as brought forward by staff, and make recommendations to the city council. Would it be appropriate to say as brought forward by staff or residents? Would that solve that?
I would have the same concerns if things were brought up by residents, right? I mean, because for some of you who may remember the conversation about concerns that the residents had regarding short-term rentals, and the planning commission, many members of the board got or of the commission, excuse me, were very interested in engaging in that idea. But that is a tremendous lift for staff. And we had a lot of other things occurring in the city at that time. And, there's other jurisdictions who, I think Port Angelis's review of short-term rentals, I think was well over a year and a half, right? These are not small lifts. And so, I think that the council always has the ability to come in and direct the staff. The council liaison always has the ability to come in and bring it up during open council discussion, to Harmony's point. And I would hope that the staff and the relevant board and commission would operate in the way that Vicky was mentioning earlier, that they would have a collaborative discussion about workloads and things like that, because the various boards and commissions are the eyes and the ears. That's why we have them. There's also a staff perspective, and there should be a good collaborative approach with the two.
And I would say the importance of having good policy is that it doesn't matter who's in those positions or who's on those boards and commissions, that the flow goes right. So in writing policy, I think take the people out and really think about what is the process we want. And I think what we've talked about before is that that sometimes, and nothing personal to any current staff, I'm thinking about history. Sometimes staff can be the bottleneck, you know. In my position, like I always say, I have 32 bosses, right? So if we have an issue we're working on, we'll bring all the recommendations and I will say, I highly recommend this one. And, you know, if we do these things, we don't have staff for that. We'd have to hire somebody. But I think that in the past that there's been times when council or maybe even the city manager didn't get all of the recommendations. And again, these boards are advisory to us. We should be able to hear their advice and they should be encouraged to give it because again, they're also our eyes and ears in the community is that, I mean, that's their expertise. That's our expertise. That's why we're here.
I guess that all being said, to try and get the conversation. I don't know. I am curious to know what Brandon, I think you said you had something prepared or something to meet with Christina.
He'd said he'd send it to me. So
yeah,
I'll get it to the city clerk to send it out to everybody.
I'm just curious to know what that says before approving this.
I gotta dig it out in the council meeting that it was approved by council, so it might take me just a little bit to dig it out.
So are we saying then that council wants to not move this forward until Brandon sends that out?
That's what I am saying, yes.
Are they under any time crunch to get this done?
That was my next question.
Nope. Planning Commission's been waiting because they want to adopt their rules of procedure, but beyond that, there are no statutory requirements or anything of that nature.
Should I make a motion?
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think I could make a motion too.
Okay. I'll take a stab out of here. I motion that this goes to second touch, pending a discussion between Brandon and city attorney. Sorry, Mayor Janice and city attorney.
Second that motion.
Anything further?
Is that clear enough? No,
I can work with it.
No timeline. I'm not, yeah, just whenever.
All right, any opposed to that motion? And seeing none, that motion will pass.
Thank you, council.
All right. Youth Liaison.
Hello. Okay, for the purposes of the record, Malia Nelson. Some big news for seniors today. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. is our scholarship night. So that's at the high school, and we just find out all our hard work and what the community is deciding to give back. And following that, graduation is June 6th, which is not this Friday, but next Friday. So that's really soon. There's been a lot of developments in the high school as far as a push towards college. This year we got a new college advisor who goes around the peninsula and does advising for different schools. And so he's been facilitating field trips to PC, and recently a lot of, I'd say 10 to 14 kids went to UW and shadowed a doctor for a day in a life as a doctor. Also some big news opportunities for teens. PC is hosting a nursing assistant qualification class. So if you're 16 and older, you can get your certification to be a nursing assistant. Also, if you may have heard last year, the CTE department of the high school got a lot of money. I'd say around $1 million. And so the deadline for teachers to decide what that's going to go to is this year. So as far as I've heard, for our science our CTE classes that are science. We've ordered a lot of new equipment that will help like keep our labs more up to date. Clubs and ASB both elected new officers. So next year they'll have an entirely new cabinet of officers. And the school board, the Sequim School Board, is looking for a new youth liaison since one of their liaisons is currently graduating. And last Monday, the Interact Club and the Knowledgeable Club both did reports to the school board to say what they've been doing this past year. So if you want an update on that, you can look at those minutes, but that's all I have.
I have just a couple comments. One, I was very excited to hear about the opportunity for some high school kids to be able to go and just shadow a doctor. Like, I can't even, where would I be now if I had the opportunity to do that back in 2000, whenever? So it's just so heartwarming to see how much more Sequim High School is able to do for their students, and just so happy to see all these opportunities for these kids is so exciting. And then number two, I do know that you will be staying with us over the summer, but I just wanted to say that I'm so excited for you to graduate, and it has been a pleasure working with you, and we will miss you when you go to college.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you. Two or three things I want to kind of bring up tonight. One is not on my list, but just randomly, I want to publicly shout out my thanks to Carla. So as you know, this is kind of just putting a stamp of amen on top of what you already heard from Christina, but we are in great hands. I continue to hear from the Peninsula community about how competent and the subject matter expertise that we have through Carla for our planning department. And of course, working in hand in glove with Christina on some of the operational things. She just brings all kinds of stability and assistance to creating a foundation there. So I just wanted to thank you for your hard work and joining the team. Probably no one to thank from Public Works, but I hope yours, I've done this a while. In all my interactions with my Public Works leadership, I don't really get a chance to see them put on a display or a demonstration like they did tonight. So I am so impressed with them. So I guess it's too bad they can't hear me say that to them, but I hope you guys appreciate the subject matter expertise we have. These work sessions have been phenomenal, and I'm glad they're recorded, and I think even I'll go back and listen to them a couple of times again. Anyway, moving right along, kind of along that line, though, I think I mentioned to most of you, I'm doing a lot of ride-alongs. It's just, it's getting a little lighter and a little warmer and a little less wet, so I've been able to get out with the police and the street and the sewer and even the fleet mechanics. So that's been really helpful to me to see and get closer to operations and to listen to frontline. I want to thank those of you that showed up last Friday to our first ever Memorial Day tribute. It was very touching. We had a reasonable crowd with, short notice, but it was amazingly articulate comments and kind of sensitive, emotional words shared there. So I appreciate your support of that. And that's new from our Parks Department with relative to them trying to get more involved in key events. So that was great. I did have a chance to speak to about 50 of our business owners, small business. These are all members of the Chamber of Commerce, and they had a luncheon today and asked me to present the results of our business survey to them. And so that went really well today as well. A couple other things, as long as I'm talking about things that I'm excited about. I did have a chance to sit in on the hearing examiner Glad to see a workforce housing project go before them. And I was also glad to be able to sign an extension to the CHIP grant that is assigned to that work. So now that has got an extension to 6/30/27. So we should be in good shape with that moving forward at this point for our community. And I think we're all eager to see that. HR reminds me that they've never really seen this before, but they have no vacancies to fill right now, including officers. So we do have one new officer starting this week and another one next week, but it's really nice to feel like our team and our families kind of in place here. I'm glad you had a chance to meet Cameron, who will be replacing Fred, who's, leaving the city and the country with his family. But glad you had a chance to meet Cameron in person. And later this week, we'll finalize another position. Jacob will be leaving and under great terms, just interested in pursuing another way, but we will finalize. I think we started with 101. I think I've told you this before, GIS applicants, and we're down to 2. This will be our 4th interview. They're just all so good. So anyway, we'll finalize that. And with that, I think that's it. We did Paul already mentioned that we got that huge grant from Department of Health for the why am I getting stuck on the fluoracres? Yeah, fluoracres. So that's really encouraging. And we also got another grant that we had applied for and didn't think that we would get. I don't think I've mentioned this to you all before, but this is we received a notice of award from the Washington Com Energy Retrofit for Public Buildings and got $64,000 to basically evaluate City Hall, our civic center here, for other types of energy conservation and whatnot. And finally, you've probably seen the public notices for the Gearhart houses that we are in the middle of viewing and receiving bids for. So it's the one house and then some of the outbuildings that people are looking at, and we'll hopefully have that kind of wrapped up in the next couple weeks. So any questions? It's just nice to meet with y'all. Thank you.
Matt, have you had interest in the structures?
Yeah, so it's open Friday. We talked about it today in our senior management team. There was a few that went through on Friday. We have staff out there to unlock it and to kind of walk people through. Saturday apparently was we didn't get an actual number, he said, but a big showing. I said, what's that mean? And he said, a lot bigger than Friday. So he didn't really have the number, but yes. And I think he was thinking about, there's one more day, and he's thinking about maybe extending it again, because I think the public notice transposed a couple dates or something. And so to get it right, we wanted to be fair. And so I think we're thinking about extending it, because it went from, I don't know, 06 to 60 or something, whatever. It was just a typo. And so we're thinking about extending it, but yeah, that'd be nice.
So is this isn't like a silent auction situation. So people put in a bid and whoever puts in the highest bid.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, they talked about doing a public auction to kind of get the competition going, and a public warfare approach. But in the end, it was more effort, more money, more time. And so it's a silent one. You just take a tour and write it in. Yeah, either way, Paul reminds us, because I just know how some people pay a lot of money for used wood, and there's a lot of that over there. But Paul reminded me this won't be without a lot of work to get that wood usable, like, the cleaning and to get the bugs and the moss and all that stuff out of it and have an old wood look. So, yeah. Same with moving that house. Originally, the consultant that we had looked at the foundation and said, yeah, it could be moved, and it not without a lot of work. And that house is really small. I mean, I don't know if you've climbed those stairs or if everything about that thing is. We would salvage it if there was any hope of return on investment, but it's not really for the city.
All right, thank you. Council reports. Anybody have anything?
Rachel and I and Mr. Hewish there, we sat in on the Planning Commission interviews for candidates. It was some good interviews. That's still in process, but it's I really appreciated just the discussion that happened in there. And it's clear that the Planning Commission, I zoom into the meetings, and it's really clear that this whole group really cares about their community, and they put in a lot of time and effort. And so it's been interesting listening to all that. I was able to get in this time. I had difficulty the week before, but I've tested it's on Teams now, and I tested that, and it seems to be working. So, but it was a really good discussion at the last meeting, and looking forward to having a complete planning commission again. A couple of good options.
Okay, between the last time we met and today, both the Parks Arbor Rec Board and the Sequim Arts Commission met. As Carla mentioned earlier, the Parks Arbor and Rec Board, the last meeting was very heavily into the comp plan. Great work going on there with the commissioners. Today's Sequim Arts Commission meeting covered the results of what's going to be coming next month, very shortly, actually, in a couple days in June for the Over the Rainbow exhibit here in the Art Karen Kuznick Reese Gallery. That's it. And then June 6th, so 1 week from Friday, their Olympic Brass Quintet will be here at City Hall for the opening of the Over the Rainbow exhibit. Good things to keep in mind for folks listening in. The July Music Jam is, Open Music Jam is canceled because it's going to conflict with the Lavender Festival. So everybody go on summer vacation and do some campfire songs, but not at the structure over in Cary Blake. Music in the Park is coming. The Whimsical Mechanical Sculpture Workshop that was scheduled for January has been rescheduled for June 21st. It will be at Guy Cole. 4 of the 12 slots are filled. So if you're interested in taking a workshop about whimsical mechanical sculptures, you should RSVP to Sarah Hurt, the arts coordinator for the city, to reserve your spot. The next gallery will be Northwest Elements. That will, the submission page will go live on June 15th. So encourage your fellow artist friends to start working on some elemental art. And there was a lot of conversation also about the epic stuff that's happening in schools with the arts as supported by the arts commissioners. Arts commissioners have been out at Grey Wolf doing art education with kindergartners, and that it was delightful to hear the report of all the things that the kindergartners were doing and sharing, and how they were interacting with the programming that the Sequim Arts commissioners had programmed and brought forward. So lots of epic things going on with both the Parks Arbor and Rec Board and the Arts Commission. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Anything for open discussion? Seeing none. Anybody interested in attending the Tuesday, June 3rd planning meeting at 2:00? If you are, go ahead and get with Heather and She'll let you know if anybody else is interested, so we don't have a quorum. Other than that, next meeting will be on June 9th at 4 o'clock. Rachel, you'll have to start that one off. There'll be a work session on utility rates starting at 4 with a regular council meeting at 6 p.m. And other than that,
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
have a good night.